I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Global Watchman News. My name is Lori Swan. I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're in the live chat, we do ask you to keep it family friendly. There will be moderators in there to make sure that we stay within the terms of service put forth to us by the platform we're utilizing tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Take a minute, hit that bell, take a minute to subscribe, hit that bell so you know when we go live. So I hope you guys are all having a great weekend. I am broadcasting without my mic tonight. Kind of doing a little bit of an experiment. I've had some feedback from the last video with John on Wednesday. My office is not furnished much. I mean, it is. I got a few things in here. I just don't have everything up on the wall or how I would like it. As you guys know, I was gone for almost a year. And so coming back and getting everything together again has been kind of a little bit of a project. So I do apologize if my sound is bad. I do promise that within the next couple of weeks, we will get it figured out. Whether I need to get a new microphone, like I said, I'm going to get pictures up on the walls today, or not today, this week. And everything like that. All right, so we are going to talk to you, or I'm going to talk to you guys about what's going on in Washington with our POTUS. Guys, man, TikTok is just unbelievable with the amount of people that are just getting on Trump about what's going on. And you know, here's the thing. I guess if I had to label myself, and I've told you guys this before, I guess if I had to label myself or put a title on myself, I guess I would label myself as a ultra conservative Republican. But that does not mean that I subscribe to the right-left paradigm, because I don't. Both sides play. It was designed to keep us fighting with each other. It's designed to keep us one against the other, pitting us one against the other, to keep us divided. That's how it's designed. And I got to say, it's doing a fantastic job as of late. I've seen a lot of people talk about Posse Comitatus. Some are saying that Trump is violating it. Some are saying that, and on the other side, they're saying, no, he's not, blah, blah, blah. Well, so I wanted to do just a little bit of a show on this. So across D.C., armed National Guard troops are now patrolling the streets outside the Lincoln Memorial near the Capitol, and even, just on their everyday intersections. Soldiers stand watch. President Donald Trump says it's necessary to stop what he calls a crime emergency. Here's the problem, okay? Violent crime in D.C. is actually at its lowest point in 30 years. Critics say the crisis is manufactured to cover for something else. And I did look at these statistics, and it does appear that crime is down. And it's not just Washington. President Trump has announced plans to deploy the Guard into cities like Chicago, New York, Baltimore, while Guard troops are also being mobilized across 19 states in coordination with federal agencies. This moment raises one of the most important questions in American law, and that is the president violating the Posse Comitatus Act, the law meant to keep the United States military from acting as domestic police? Or is he exercising lawful presidential authority in the name of law and order? We're going to break that down right now. We're going to do the history. We're going to do the law. We're going to do Trump's current deployments and what it all means for the future of this American democracy. So first out, we're going to talk about what Posse Comitatus is. It's the Posse Comitatus Act, originated in 1878 after the Civil War and the reconstruction of the Republic. People feared the federal government was using the army to control the South. So the law actually says that the army, later it was made to include the Air Force, and by policy, the Navy and Marines. So they cannot enforce civilian law inside the United States unless specifically authorized. Now, the exceptions that do exist are: one, congressional approval, canceling out or nullifying the Constitution, suspending, we'll use that word, suspending the Constitution, or enacting the Insurrection Act. None of which Trump has done to this point. The law was meant to protect liberty by keeping policing separate from the military power. Think about it, okay? The founders of this nation wanted citizens protected from tyranny. They feared standing armies in the streets, and Posse Comitatus was that safeguard. But today, that safeguard is being tested like never before, guys. So, the National Guard is actually quite unique, all right? And it kind of is separate from the regular army or the regular military, all right? It's unique, and it can act as both a state force and a federal force. And under Title 32, the Guard answers to the governors, and that's why they can help with disasters or riots or emergencies. The governors of the states activate the National Guard, and they report directly to the governor of those states. Now, under Title 10, the president takes control. And at that point, they are part of the military, federal military, and they are bound, but they are bound by Posse Comitatus restrictions. All right. The only thing that makes Washington, D.C. different is there's no governor. That means the president directly controls the Guard there. But that's the only Guard that he directly controls. All the other ones are controlled by the governors. And that's exactly where the controversy is starting. This year, President Trump has direct command of the Guard in D.C. Perfectly legal, perfectly normal. That's how it works. But he's extended that power into the states, blurring the lines of state and federal authority. So we're just gonna, let's talk about Trump's deployments here. So August, this month of 2025, President Trump declared a crime, and I'm using air quotes here, a crime emergency in the Capitol. Okay, I said I'm not watching chat right now because I don't want to get sidetracked. But anyways, this month, 2025, August, Trump declared a crime emergency in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. He federalized the Metropolitan Police Department and deployed between 800 and 2,000 Guard troops, along with 500 federal agents. Now, the troops have been authorized to carry firearms while patrolling the city streets. Critics, including the ACLU, call it intimidation tactic, unnecessary, given the crime rates are at a historic low. Now, Trump has publicly said that he will deploy the Guard to Chicago, New York, claiming communities are begging for federal help. Yes and no. And I can speak for Chicago. Okay. I actually put up a post today in one of our community groups here. And I made the comment that, so you guys know I drive for Uber. That's my part-time job. We own a trucking company. That's my main job, but I do drive for Uber. And for the last year, I've been doing the overnights in Phoenix, Arizona, with no qualms about it, none whatsoever. I have no problems driving overnights. I'm not scared. I'm not intimidated. I'm not. I'm cautious, of course, but I'm not fearful. Here, I am. I won't drive the overnights. So, do I want something to happen as far as the crime here in Chicago? Absolutely. Something needs to be done. But I want it to be done legally, all right? So, in Chicago, here, the Pentagon is already planning for a large deployment that is being modeled after the DC and the Los Angeles deployment. And in Baltimore, Trump announced similar intentions, sparking backlash from Governor Wes Moore, who called it racial fearmongering. And I think he called it racial fearmongering because most of the crime is in the low-income, non-white areas. So he's saying it's racial profiling. Local leaders like Mayor Brandon Johnson here in Chicago and the governor of New York have condemned the move, calling it unconstitutional. Now, he's also gone beyond these urban deployments, and the guards are going to be called up in 19 states. And they're going to be mobilized to support the Department of Homeland Security and ICE operations. Their roles are going to be handling logistics, processing data, and managing detainees. They're not going to be directly making arrests, but critics are still saying this is still a militarization of domestic protection. We are now witnessing one of the largest peacetime domestic guard operations in U.S. history. Never before have so many states and cities seen this level of coordinated federal military presence outside of war or a natural disaster. And that has some people nervous, and rightfully so. Okay. Critics are saying that Trump is violating the spirit of Posse Comitatus, that these deployments look less like emergency response and more like political theater. And by federalizing police in D.C. and sending armed troops into these states without consent of these governors, he's bypassing legal limits. That's what the critics are saying. The supporters, they say that Trump is legally executing executive power and that the Guard under Title 32 is legally allowed to assist, which they are to an extent. Supporters are also bringing up the Insurrection Act, which gives the president broad authority in unrest, even if it's not formally invoked yet. That's walking a fine line right there, because he has not invoked the Insurrection Act yet. We are not under martial law yet. Now, it's not the first time that a sitting president has utilized or federalized the National Guard. Eisenhower sent them into Little Rock in 1957 to enforce desegregation. And George H.W. Bush sent them into the LA riots in 1992. The federal court will rarely speak about Posse Comitatus, so that's why the borders are fuzzy, because the Supreme Court hasn't stepped up and said, Mr. President, you can't do this. Now, the recent California court decision already ruled that Trump's 2020 guard use, when he sent them to LA in 2020, violated the law. Okay, that showed a legal challenge. But it's California. California doesn't want any. California is a dumpster fire. And they condemn the fire department when they come to put it out. Literally, okay? But past presidents have used troops for clear, time-limited emergencies, protecting rights, squashing riots. But Trump's deployment is different, because crime is not surging in the areas that he's sending these troops. They're being sent preemptively. And critics are warning that the normalization of military policing in civilian life is quite dangerous, and it is. Now, when Eisenhower sent troops to Little Rock, he was protecting children from being blocked at the schoolhouse doors. And when Trump sends troops, he's overriding local governments that say they don't need or want military patrols. That distinction really matters. If Trump's actions stand, then they are going to set a precedent for future presidents to deploy troops into cities whenever they claim a crisis, whether there's one or not. Then the dangers are not just Trump, but what this could mean for every president after him. And the line between law enforcement and military power could disappear. America has long prided itself in being different. We've been a nation where soldiers defend our borders, not patrol our neighborhoods. But today that line is fading fast. I think when you and I think of military in our neighborhoods, we think of 1984. We think of martial law. Let me pull up this. What did I do with my other? Okay. So let's look here. So is he violating Posse Comitatus? Actually, yeah, he is. And I'm going to tell you why. Just gotta pull it up here. Okay. So, you know what? I'm going to play this first before I do anything. Hold on one second. I'm going to play this first. Share screen. Okay. Let's take a look at this first.
Right now here at 4 o'clock, we want to tell you about some developments from President Trump. He says Chicago is up next for a federal crime crackdown. He's already deployed the National Guard in Washington, D.C.
NBC5's Randy Gyllenhaal joining us now with details on what the president said exactly today. Randy?
Yeah, so fast developments in the Oval Office here. We should note the city of Chicago says they have not received any formal communication from the White House or the federal government about exactly this plan from President Trump, who says he intends to send either the National Guard or even the U.S. military into Chicago. Critics say it could be illegal and unproductive, but Trump says it would make Chicago safe from crime. We'll play his comments here in full.
After we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next.
Okay, the Illinois National Guard is typically under the command of the governor, who would be J.B. Pritzker. The president could federalize the Guard, but only during things like massive unrest or civil emergencies. That has rarely happened in U.S. history. Now, Washington, D.C., that's unique. The Guard there does report to the president and has been deployed for a few weeks. Some of them will be armed, according to the Pentagon. But here in Chicago, police data shows that shootings, homicides, and robberies are all down about 30% this year. Just in, Chicago's mayor, in a statement, said unlawfully deploying the National Guard to Chicago has the potential to inflame tensions between residents and law enforcement. There are many things the federal government could do to help us reduce crime and violence in Chicago, but sending in the military is not one of them. Also, Governor Pritzker called the idea, quote, an authoritarian power grab of major cities. Trump has also threatened to send troops to New York City as well. Coming up at 6, we're going to hear from the chair of the Public Safety Committee, Alderman Hopkins, here in Chicago. He's been a critic of crime here, but says this is not the right move. He says maybe Trump should just spend some federal money to hire more Chicago police officers.
That's a bit, if any capacity, what could they do in a place like that compared to D.C.? I mean, you just illustrated some of the points.
And the
there.
city says they are taking these comments extremely seriously.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy.
Okay. So apparently he is coming to Chicago. And J.B. Pritzker, who is the governor, is not happy, as is none of the other governors of the other states that he's sending them into is either. So the Trump administration, we've told you that they've federalized the military forces, and so the public debate and the legal challenges have definitely been ignited. Los Angeles, when he sent the deployment in June, the administration deployed the National Guard soldiers and Marines to Los Angeles, citing incidents of violence and disorder. And the state of California is challenging that deployment in court, arguing that it's unlawful use of the military. Washington, D.C. deployment from this month. The administration has also deployed National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. and authorized them to carry weapons. And border deployments from last April, troops have been used to assist with border wall construction and provide logistical support to agencies like ICE and CPB and the NHS. And so the legal questions, the legal debate centers on whether the administration's actions are exceeding the Posse Comitatus Act limits. Key questions in the legal challenges are the purpose of the deployment. Do the actions constitute assistance to civilian law enforcement, which is restricted, or are they legitimate exceptions, like enforcing federal law? The Title 32 loophole. Is the administration using the Title 32 provision, which helps the National Guard under state control, but uses federal funding to bypass the intent of Posse Comitatus? And does the president have the authority to bypass state governors and order federalized Guard members to carry out missions within the state borders? So the courts right now are currently considering these issues, and the verdict on the Los Angeles deployment, that's expected any time. he is since D.C. is not a state, D.C. has its own National Guard, just like every other state. They're also so 50 states have National Guards. Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and D.C. and there's one more. It might be Guam. I'm not sure. There's 54 individual National Guard units, 50 in the states, and then 4 other ones. So that would be. I'll find it. Hold on a second. List of. I just read it before I even came up here. National Guard units. Okay. There's 53. I'm sorry. Okay, so there's the 50 states plus 3 territories and the District of Columbia. Okay, so there's 54. So there's 50 states, 3 territories in the District of Columbia. Each of the states' organization managed by the adjacent general. Instead of fixed numbers of units, the National Guard is a structure of diverse state-specific organizations that can be activated for state or federal missions. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay. Like I said when I first started this video, the problem is when we think about the National Guard on the street, we automatically think about martial law. Okay. In the signing of the NDAA by Obama, okay, let me back up a minute. So he has the National Guard in these cities under the guise of helping to combat crime. But we know in these cities that the crime is not as bad as it was a few years ago. That's gone down quite a bit. Okay. We know how bent he is on getting people rounded up. For ICE. I'm a Republican, guys, but I don't trust Trump. I don't. I think he's going into these cities under the guise of crime and committing crime, and he's going to start rounding people up. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Okay, I'm not. Because if you're in this country illegally, you don't belong in this country, okay? And before you come at me, okay, march your happy little ass over to China or Russia and try walking into those countries without the proper paperwork and see what happens, okay? You don't get far. And punishment is usually right around the same as it's here or worse. So don't even go there, okay? There's nothing that says that we have to bend rules and put our national security at risk by allowing terrorists, and most of them are, and you know that, all right? Unless you're some liberal Democrat, in which you are, I don't know why you're here anyway. All right, so I mean, I'm just afraid that we may find ourselves in a situation where they came for the homeless, but I didn't speak up because I'm not homeless. They came for the illegals, but I didn't speak up because I wasn't an illegal. And then they came for the Christians, but there was nobody to speak up for us. That's what I'm worried about. President Obama put into place the NDAA. It means that they can legally detain a U.S. citizen with no charges indefinitely if you are considered to be domestic terrorist, a combat, what is it called? Can't even think. But if you're deemed to be a threat to national security, and we all know that conservative, ultra-conservative Christian Republicans are on that list. Okay. Enemy combatants. That's what the word I was looking for. So, are we crossing the line that is dangerous? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is he using World War II playbook? I think maybe he is. Is he overstepping his back? Yeah, he is. And if he's not overstepping, he's right on the line. This is dangerous. We're entering dangerous territory. And I have to say that looking around at what's going on over on other social media platforms, TikTok and that, Democrats are getting violent. They're getting to that point where if things continue down the road they're going at right now, we're looking at the possibility of a civil war. We've got to be real careful. Real careful with what we allow to transpire right now. I mean, it's crazy out there. So legally, the courts may take years to decide this, but politically and morally, the answer depends on how you see America, on whether or not he is violating Posse Comitatus. If you believe in strong presidential power and military-backed law and order, then you might see this as a decisive leadership. If you believe in civil liberties, limited government, and checks on executive authority, you may see this as a step toward authoritarianism. One thing is certain, though, the precedent being set right now in Washington, Chicago, New York, and across 19 states is historic. And the United States is redefining what military presence at home looks like. The real question is, will this moment be remembered as the time America secures its streets, or a time it lost the line between freedom and force? That's all I got for you guys tonight. We'll be back on Wednesday. Remember, eyes open, no fear.